if you're dating someone and you say, hey, what about your finances? Is there a delicate or a proper way to get into that subject before marrying someone?
I would like to see his tax returns
Really?
and see all of his bank accounts, current statements. I
So
mean,
it's okay. So it's okay to say, yeah, I'll marry you, but I want to see your tax returns and your
that's what
finances.
the prenup is.
Diana Romanov, welcome to Canada. It's such an honor having you here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. You're such a kick-ass divorce attorney, and obviously it's unfortunate to say that so many people need the help of divorce attorneys, but hey, if they do, they might as well fall in the right hands, right, Diana?
That's right. That's right.
I, I have so many questions, so let's rock and roll and get started because I want to try to pack in as much information as possible. I'm going to start with a really tough one, okay? And I just you can be as honest as you can. Do you think the court system in general is fair to women when it comes to divorce? And I will explain to you why I'm asking this question.
Oh, well, I view a court system case by case. So I practice in the Bay Area, California, and I study the judge. If I have a feeling that I'm representing a woman and a judge has a history of certain situations where the judge is not treating women correctly, then I file a so-called 170.6 motion, and it goes also for man.
Uh-huh.
And then I disqualify this judge from the get-go. I had
Oh
to
my
do it
God.
only a
Yeah.
couple times. I had a situation where in COVID, the judge, there was a situation where we were in trial. I was representing women. I got Montessori school for the child, and the father said, I don't want to enroll the child into Montessori anymore. And so we had to file an ex parte after an ex parte to get the child into Montessori. And eventually, we, of course, got the ex parte granted because we went to trial on this topic and we won
Mm-hmm.
in COVID. And so
Right.
then we filed for sanctions in the same court, but another judge was there. And the judge not only did not give us sanctions, he reversed the ruling
Wow.
that we already went to trial on and spent so much time and money. And then when I said, you can't do that, we went to trial on this, and father used the same argument he used in trial. I live with my mother in the house, and I don't want the child to go to Montessori because she could be exposed to COVID.
Uh-huh.
So that
Well,
argument didn't go well. And the judge hung up on us. So he said, I'm done with you. And he hung up. I
my
reported
God.
this judge. And ever since, I was disqualifying this judge under 170.6.
I am so happy you're bringing this up, and now you're going to understand why. I literally, and I get messages from women all over the world, by the way, not just the United States, that they're getting trashed in court. I literally have two friends here in Los Angeles right now going through divorce. One of them has been trying to get divorced for 5 years. She was on the show a few weeks ago, and the judge, and I don't think every attorney knows what you just mentioned, that you can disqualify a judge. And I'll tell you why. Because in my friend's case, she's trying to get divorced from her husband for 5 years. She's not a millionaire, by the way, guys. She's a social worker on a salary. And the judge gave this man her entire house. It's the first time in the history of California that a spouse receives like 100% of this Epstein credit, I think it's called. It's unheard of. And they did not let her talk in court. Her attorney didn't help her. She's like losing her home. She's losing everything. And this dude comes from a rich family. He is in perfect age to work. He keeps claiming that he's disabled. And my friend is getting destroyed in court. So maybe is this the problem of not being with the right attorney, Diana?
Sometimes I do get clients, and I tend to be careful when I'm attorney number 4.
Uh-huh.
But there were
Ah.
cases where I accepted a client where first attorney didn't represent well. Usually it happens when a client is very desperate to find an attorney within 24 hours, and then the first attorney who picks up offers a flat rate in family cases, I would avoid flat rates. Because what happens is once the attorney receives the money, they do some work, but there is no more human incentive to go and fight for 3 years if the ex turns out to be very
Yeah.
difficult to deal with. So then she goes or he goes to attorney number two. Attorney number two is trying to recover all the mess that has happened, and then attorney number three, and then by the time I'm in the case, everything already happened. And so what I notice sometimes, well, we need to hire a forensic accountant from the first day of separation so someone can do proper post-separation accounting for Epstein credit, Watts
Yeah.
credit, or all kinds of credits,
Yeah.
so-called post-separation accounting reimbursement claims. And
Oh
then
my
once
God.
we did this, so I basically treat that kind of case as
Uh-huh.
if I am the first attorney.
So let me ask you a question, because obviously not every woman can afford a kick-ass attorney such as yourself, right? A lot, like for example, my friend, she's been a social worker for 25 years. I don't even know how she's handling it. Any suggestions for those who cannot pay? Like, obviously, if you fall in the right hands, if they fall in your hands, much more likely that everything is going to be resolved in a proper manner. But a lot of women are not able to do that. Any tips for those women probably listening right now that are like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
It's a tough question. Like, if you
Yeah.
want to go to war, you have to have the bullets. And if you don't have the bullets, then you got to study. And that's what I did. I realized not all people are able to afford my services. And so I wrote a book.
Ah, okay.
I will show you.
Okay, guys, listen up, because I agree. The more information you have, I love that. Divorce Like a Boss. Where is the book available, Diana?
Amazon.
Everywhere?
Amazon
Amazon.
in 4 formats. And also I have YouTube channel with over 500 videos. So basically what happened is I got clients asking me the same type of questions. Uh, what if I'm not a prevailing party in domestic violence? Do I need to pay the fees? What if I am prevailing party? What about custody? What about spousal support? I created a video, 17-minute long video about spousal support. Instead of paying half an hour consultation about explain to me California law on spot. So it attracts different type of people with visual, or some people like to read, some people like to listen. So obviously your audience likes to listen. So that's why I started YouTube explaining everything. And then once they listen and study everything, and then there are questions remaining, what I suggest is to schedule half an hour to an hour, which is manageable, right? It's not a whole retainer, and
Yeah.
strategize. I had a client who did everything herself, motion to compel, spousal, and she would book from time to time, and we would go on a recorded line on Zoom and correct her filings. And then she would file and she would be reporting to me how successful she was.
Wow, I love that idea. That's like very, very, very good practical ideas. I'm putting the link of your YouTube channel here on this episode for you guys that are listening to the audio episode, and people that are watching the video here on YouTube. Your YouTube channel is here. I think the more educated we are, right, the better we can protect ourselves. But I kind of agree with you, like from the get-go, a lot of people go to cheap attorneys in the beginning because they're like, oh, I'm going to save money, la, la, la. But I think the cheap may end up being expensive in the long run, because like you said, usually these attorneys that don't have a lot of experience that are going to charge a flat fee, they're not going to fight for you. They don't have skin in the game, so they're not going to help as much as a more seasoned professional attorney would. So I love that you said that.
Yes, that's working, and I have constantly ongoing clients on consultation basis to strategize and to correct course.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Now I want to ask something else, and you can give me your personal opinion. How about, because I see that a lot, same thing, one of my girlfriends is getting divorced here. Her husband is a very healthy 59-year-old dude, and he's telling the judge, I cannot work. She needs to pay for everything. A really famous case now in the media, you must have seen Denise Richards and her husband, total loser, douchebag, like, oh, I cannot work. I'm going to go homeless. I mean, these are grown ass, healthy men. On my friend's case, by the way, Diana, he rides motorcycles. Like we literally see, he bought everything with her money, of course. He's like riding motorcycles every Sunday. We literally filmed him. And I said, show the judge, tell your attorney to show the judge these videos that this, pardon my French, asshole is saying that you have to pay all his bills, you have to pay support because he's disabled and he's out and about enjoying life. And her attorney was like, oh no, it's not the right time to show the judge. And I was like, why are these men getting away with this? I want your input on that.
I just settled a case that was going on very similar to this one. I received, a phone call about 4 years ago from a woman whose lawyer died. And I was like, okay, well, I can take on this case. And so similar, he was on disability, living in her house with a child, and driving Maserati on disability.
Yeah, it's like my friend's husband. He has motorcycles, cars, la 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 la.
And guitars. He had 40 guitars, and he wasn't working, so he was receiving his disability. And then eventually, I couldn't. I was telling my client we need to do something about it, and she's like, yeah. And so we hired an accountant. We calculated everything for divorce purposes, dividing assets and debts and post-separation accounting. They were married for 7 years, and she was supporting him already for 7 years. So it's like, you need to stop. So basically, the first thing first, I told her, you created a monster, you need to get on it. So the most difficult part was to get her on board. And then once I got her on board, we filed a motion to terminate spousal support. That's it. If the marriage is long term, let's say if it's over 10 years, the court might say, well, I don't have jurisdiction or I don't have the authority to terminate it because the divorce is ongoing. But then I would hire a vocational evaluator who would evaluate this man to see what's going on, potentially even independent medical evaluator to see if his disability while driving is legitimate, and attack credibility. Credibility is everything in family court.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Like, let's say in this case, right, my friend, her husband is like riding these fancy motorcycles around, and he's telling the judge, I cannot work, I hurt my back, I'm disabled. Shouldn't her attorney present this evidence like you said you did for your client? Why would an attorney tell their client, like, oh no, let's not show this to the judge yet? She's thinking.
I don't think I would need to know more. There is potentially some strategy, but it could be that some attorneys don't like confrontation. They would like to settle. And that's a legitimate cost concern. If you start putting things out, then it becomes very, very high contentious and litigate. It becomes a trial. Because then he says, well, are you saying I'm not legitimately? Let's bring it on. And then the client would have to be willing to pay for evaluation, vocation evaluator, medical evaluator. So it adds up very quickly, and potentially the lawyer, knowing that, is holding back. But I cannot speculate. I need to speak to the attorney or the client to see what the thinking behind.
It's just so painful when I see hardworking women marry these dudes, like you said, your client, like my friends, even like when I see Denise Richards, I mean, she's an actor, she's doing OnlyFans and everything. And then this guy's like, oh, I should be getting paid because she gets paid. Any tips how women can avoid ending up being these situations? Like, what should you do?
Yes. The red flag starts from the beginning,
Yeah.
I actually wrote my second book, How to Detect Red Flags and be married happily. So sometimes I have phone calls, it's like, he's not working for 20 years and now he wants spousal support. I'm like, why didn't you divorce him after year number 1?
I know. Well,
But
I
he's
guess I would say
here.
don't marry a dude that doesn't have a job, right? Don't put a guy in your house that doesn't do anything.
He might have a job at the beginning, and then as soon as he thinks he got her, he will he will slowly, lose the job and convince her why he's useful in the household, whatever
Yeah.
he does. So I would watch out for that.
Yeah. So let's say now it's interesting that you mentioned something like somebody move in, because I get these questions a lot on kind of those and I don't know how to answer. Let's say the couple is not married, right? You meet someone, you really like them, you're like, okay, move in. Is there any legal grounds for that? Like, let's say somebody's living with you for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. So, a two-part question. Is there any legal grounds when you just move in someone in your home? And I guess that would be a yes, right? Does the length of how long they've been living with you in your home count?
I gotta be careful because my area of expertise starts with either when they're trying to get married with a
Uh-huh.
prenup,
Yeah.
or when they got married and want to get divorced. So
Okay.
this is the type of, kind of limbo
Yeah.
landlord tenant situation. Someone moves in, doesn't pay rent or pays rent. I think this is more of a different area of law.
But no, but I mean, so no, I'm talking about if they get separated and they're not legally married, is there any weight in the judicial system, the court system? Like, oh, we were living together, we were practically married, but we were not married on
Oh,
paper.
common law marriage.
Yeah, is there
No,
such a
so there
thing?
was one case, 1971 Marvin case, where a wife was married for many, many years. They had 3 kids and they acted like, sorry, they
Uh-huh.
were not married. And they acted like husband and wife. And he told her, she worked for his business, don't worry, darling, I will take care of you. I will, you know. And then when they separated, suddenly she got nothing. And so this was a unicorn case that said, okay, well, we're gonna act as if. And so she got spousal support and she got division of assets, although they were not married. There are only few. I personally know so many lawyers, and I don't know a single lawyer who specializes on Marvin case except couple in the whole California, because there's such unicorn cases.
Oh, really? So let's say somebody moves in their girlfriend into their house, they're living together for 3 years. The girlfriend doesn't work, like it happens a lot around here, like Beverly Hills, and she moves out. Can she go to court and say, hey, he should pay my bills and everything because I was living with him, or that doesn't hold weight in court?
Marvin case has specific parameters, such
Mm-hmm.
as oral promises.
Uh-huh.
And if she can prove that he said, I will take care of you, and they were acting like husband and wife, not like
Oh, okay.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
that's Marvin case,
Oh, okay.
potentially. So I would consult
Potential.
a specialist on Marvin cases.
Okay, got you. Now, since you mentioned prenups, let's talk about that because I think it's really, really important. When I got married a long time ago, I dated my husband for 6 years because I didn't want to get married. He was really wealthy. I made my own money, but nowhere near as much as he did. And he wanted to get married. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And he said, let's sign a prenup. And I was completely on board. I agree. I personally, and you tell me if you agree or not, I think marriage is a contract with a lot of legal ramifications. So I said, yes, absolutely. Let's sign a prenup. But I know there are so many women that get offended. Like if the guy's like, let's sign a prenup, they're like, oh my God. What's your take on it? Should everybody sign a prenup, or when should you sign a prenup? And what would you say to women that get personally offended by a prenup?
Well, when people are already divorced, married, and they have assets and children and potentially building businesses and creating debts, that's a wise thing to have a prenup. Prenup doesn't need to exclude one spouse, one-sided, no spousal support, and I keep all my assets and goodbye. Prenup could be also determining the rights and obligations. So it's a good starting point for mature adulting and having financial conversations. So when the honeymoon phase subsides, what would be, and after 6 years, I assume you were pretty sober talking about these things. How would it look like if we were to separate? And that's what prenup is for.
So if somebody comes to you as your client, like, oh, I'm going to get married, should I do a prenup or not? Do you recommend that everybody does a prenup, or it's a case by case? Only really rich people should do a prenup? How do you approach it?
I would say to people who are young and they would like to determine how the separation would look like, because 50% do get separated and divorced, unfortunately, statistically. I would ask them what their plans are, how would they like. Some people say, we want 50-50 and whatever is the law. But my parents have inheritance. And they told me I need to have a prenup. So then the prenup would cement California law, potentially modify something about spousal support. Maybe if they're married for 10 years or more, it will not be spousal support forever, but limited at 10 years. If the spousal support could be 35% of net disposable to the lower earning spouse, we can limit it to 20%. Things like that, and most importantly, inheritance.
Yeah,
Inheritance, according to California law, is separate property, but it gets commingled. So even though there is a prenup, I would also tell the client, please keep everything separate so that when you get the inheritance, keep in separate account, trace everything, because with the prenup, the same principle apply. Do not commingle. And if you do, you have to do the tracing. Tracing means you have to have bank statement for all the 20 years prior to marriage plus marriage for all consecutive months, so that nobody can say you spend that on in this month or
oh my
deposited from
God.
community on that month. So it has to be very consecutive.
I see. So if some woman out there is listening and she's engaged to be married and she feels offended by the guy asking her to sign a prenup, what would you say to that? Is it
Would
a
ask
deal breaker or?
if I, depending who I would be talking to a woman or a man, if I were representing women, I would ask her what exactly is she offended about. Because the prenup could say that because some men are, for example, wealthy, but they don't work. So even without the prenup, she get nothing because his separate property, let's say he has, $100 million and $100 million make money. And so he lives off that money.
Yeah.
That separate property, making separate property. It's like apple tree, apples, separate property. So then we could say percentage of his separate property with even if it's 0.5% every year, capped at 20%, would be hers.
Oh, okay. I think they get offended because they say, oh, he doesn't trust me, all these things. Oh, he thinks I'm marrying him for the money. I hear that a lot. Like I get all kinds of messages like that.
Right, but it's only if the prenup says you get nothing. I would
Yeah.
defend the
Yeah.
position that she should get something.
Something fair, right? I think
Because
a
then what's
prenup
the
should.
point of getting married if there is no shared joy and responsibility, right?
Yeah. So, for people that are thinking about getting married, like you said, the divorce rate is very high. Like half of all marriages fail, right? Any tips in terms of planning and getting, I mean, you must have seen it all. Do you have maybe one or two pointers that would increase the chances of a marriage being successful?
Yes. First of all, talk about everything. How to raise kids. Do you think the kids should go into private school? What religion? Where would we live? people get infatuated with each other and then get married. And then I ask, so what did you like about him? Well, he was handsome. I'm like, what else? Well, he was such a nice guy. What else? And then I find out there was nothing other than culturally, maybe same culture, French or whatever. And then the time is ticking, and then it turns out he's drinking, taking drugs, and she stays longer than she should, and then has a kid or a second kid, and then they divorce, and then she tells, well, he was abusive all these years, and he was like da 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 da, and then she tells all the but well, why did you stay for 13, 15 years? So I would say, in terms of planning, create a questionnaire, 100 questions that are deal breakers in a relationship, and then see if the values and interest align. Because if they don't, it's going to be, the handsomeness is going to crack at some point.
I think it's very good advice. I do think and believe a lot of people rush into it. Like you
Yeah.
said, you meet someone and they're like,
Oh
oh,
my God.
butterfly. I
The
have
most
friends that they say, like, oh, I'm madly in love, like within 2 weeks of dating each other, like 2, 3 weeks of dating each other. Like, I love you, love. I'm like, that is nowhere near enough time to find out. Like you said, if you really like someone, if you have similarities, I think you need to pace yourself, right? In getting to know
Also, my
someone.
worst case domestic violence cases are, well, they met each other and in 2 months they got married and got a kid. And then, well, did you know that your spouse actually already had a kid with another marriage and destroyed the other parent with the same domestic violence fake claim? I would study the other person's,
That's
how
all
they
of that.
treat, when they
Yeah.
go to the restaurant, how do they treat a waiter? How do they drive? Are they aggressive? How do they act when they drink? Do they lose their patience? How would they resolve conflicts? So it's not about the honeymoon phase is easy, but when a first conflict hits, how do they recover from that conflict? Do they apologize? Do they suggest couple therapy?
Yeah,
The repair
I
is also
totally
important.
agree. Now, how about, because I also see like a lot of cases that women marry a guy and then turns out he was a crook or dishonest with his finances, or all the chaos. I saw like a documentary yesterday, really interesting documentary on Amazon Prime about this Hollywood dude, and turned out it was one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in history. I forgot the name of the documentary. He's in federal prison now for 25 years. And the girl was clueless because she was so young when she married him. She had no idea that his multi-million-dollar business was a Ponzi scheme. Is there because I know it's a very delicate subject, like if you're dating someone and you say, hey, what about your finances? Is there a delicate or a proper way to get into that subject before marrying someone?
Yes, I would like to see his tax returns and
Really?
and see all of his bank accounts, current statements. I
So
mean,
it's okay. So it's okay to say, yeah, I'll marry you, but I want to see your tax returns and your
that's what
finances.
the prenup is. The prenup
Ah.
forces to disclose assets and debts and income. And so part of
Ah.
my process is to send preliminary declaration of disclosure request, which is FL 142 assets and debt form that requires to attach all recent statements and credit card debts. And then when at one point I had this client who was marrying this guy and she wanted a prenup because she was wealthy, he was not. And then at the time when he sent his disclosures, it turned out that he had a lot of debts. She was pissed. And I'm like, seriously? Now? Now
Yeah.
that we do the prenup, you're pissed? What about like all the years that you dated him? What about asking about his debts?
I know that's what I mean, right? But it's such a delicate subject. But I agree with you. I think it's so important so you don't fall in somebody else's
Yeah.
chaos, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's delicate when it's none of my business, but the moment I marry this person, it becomes my business because a third party can also go after wife.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
Third
wow. I'm
party
so glad you're
collectors.
mentioning that. Oh,
Yes.
wow. Oh,
So
my
it
God.
absolutely becomes her business.
Oh my God, that's very important
If he's in
information.
debt, a third party, and even with a prenup, that can happen because prenup is between parties. It's not, it doesn't bind IRS. So, for example, they're married, they file joint tax returns. He
Uh-huh.
he doesn't he you let's say she doesn't make as much as he does, and then IRS goes after audit or underpayment. Who do you think they will go after?
Oh
Of
my
course,
God.
it's her too.
Wow. I'm so glad you brought this up because this is super. That's why I say you got to educate yourself before just going crazy and getting married or eloping in Las Vegas. Now, before we run out of time, two more quick questions. We always talk about guys like millionaires, right? Oh, I want you to sign a prenup. I want you to sign a prenup. But obviously, I have a huge uh, female audience. So let's ask this question. Let's say somebody like me. I'm not a millionaire. I work really hard, but I own my business. I do my show, la la la. Let's say I decide to get married again. Like a lot of women like me, they're entrepreneurs, they're business women, they work so hard. Should we be asking the guy, like, yeah, I'm sorry, I really love you and everything, but I deserve to have a prenup to protect myself? Or is it like, no, you don't have enough? Or should everybody ask for that?
First of all, I would not apologize. Let's say I'm sorry.
I love you. Don't say I'm sorry.
I would say getting married is also getting into a business partnership, and
Yeah.
that requires full disclosure. Here is my full disclosure, and I would like to see your full disclosure. And then let's talk about planning together. How do you see? And sometimes the conversation is going to be who is going to pay how much for bills. I had people who created a spreadsheet, percentage proportionate to their income, contributing to joint account. So they went to town about that type of stuff. But that's not what prenup is for. Explain to them. The prenup is for the case of divorce, not death, not marriage, divorce.
Yeah.
So
But
do not include clause about cheating because it's against public policy. Do not include clause about unborn children, where they're going to live. But I would definitely be very open, unapologetic about the fact that we need to talk about money.
I love that. Ladies, listen, I agree. You have to be empowered. You have to protect your hard work. You have to protect your assets. And of course, when we meet someone and we get married, we hope it's a fairy tale forever, right? But unfortunately, half of the time, it's not. One more quick question, Diana, because you mentioned something. You said is it after 10 years that the law considers a marriage long-term marriage?
From the date of marriage until the date of separation, and the date of separation is determined by two factors. One spouse says, we're divorcing, our relationship is over. And second factor, that spouse acting accordingly.
Mhm.
So no sex, no going on vacation, no holding hands, no acting like husband and wife and wife, husband and husband, basically separated.
Okay.
So if from that point on, marriage separation, more than 10 years, the court says long-term marriage, which means that the court doesn't have necessarily jurisdiction, or the court could terminate marriage spousal support sooner than age of retirement, death of either party. But after 10 years, I noticed people starting to get on the 10-year mark makes them
Yeah.
to realize, okay, this is long-term marriage,
Yeah.
divorce. So a lot of clients come in right before the 10-year mark.
Yes. Because after 10 years, supposedly you're going to pay more, correct? If you get
They're
divorced, you're
on
going
the
to pay
hook
more.
for longer, meaning when the marriage is shorter, then it's usually half of the length of the marriage in spousal support. So
Uh-huh.
8 year of marriage would be 4 year spousal support, but 10 year of marriage doesn't have that cap.
Okay. Got you. Thank you so much. So I guess the message is if you are thinking about getting married, educate yourself as much as you can and read your books. I'm definitely getting your books on Amazon right now because I love educating myself. I love learning. I was watching your videos on YouTube last night, by the way, and you're fantastic. Thank you for doing that because, ladies, and gentlemen listening, like she said, it's free advice. So if you
Not
think
advice, information.
information, yeah, sorry, free information, tons of free information. So if you think you don't want to pay or you cannot afford a fantastic attorney such as Diana, log into her YouTube channel. The link is right here on this episode. But if you're listening to the
Kindle. Kindle
Kindle,
and audiobook. So whoever listens and likes to
there you
listen.
go. I'm
Yeah.
putting all your links here so you guys go get educated. I hope everybody lives happily ever after. But if you end up being divorced like my friends, you don't want to be in trouble. Diana, thank you so much. It was such an honor having you. Many kisses, and I wish you a wonderful holiday season. And I'm sure I'm going to get hundreds of questions, and I'll invite you back next season to to come help us out again. Guys, be safe out there, and I'll see you very soon. Love you.